So I wanted to focus on this tank today, and this is the tank, and forgive the angle. If I sit directly in front, I can't fit the whole thing in, so, you know, I'm not the world's best cameraman. Be that as it may. This tank has been set up the longest. This is a 55-gallon tank. It's probably about 4 feet across. Oh, look, somebody's coming to say hello. Hello, baby girl. So it's about 4 feet across, and it's not very wide. It's 12 or 18 inches deep. But the length is what I went for. The fish like lots of horizontal more than vertical space to spread out. And you can see this tank is thriving. And to me, a long, wide tank just is more appealing than something tall or with a distorted front. So these are the tanks I tend to gravitate toward, then, and a 40-gallon breeder. But this one, we bought this tank. It has to be 20 years ago, maybe more. And by all rights, it should be leaking like a sieve, but you know, they made good quality stuff back then. We bought this thing with a cabinet down below here. And no, it's not gasoline in the house. That's just Thompson's water seal, so don't freak out. But anyway, we bought the stand and the tank, and I think we probably paid $500 for the whole thing. You know, and I have had this tank with me that long. And I dug it out of the shed a few years ago, maybe 6 to 10 years. When I started my YouTube channel, I was doing aquariums initially. And I dug this out of the shed and set it up, and it was my pride and joy. And to be honest with you, I have never, since that setup, the same rock is in there. And it's not really rock, it's gravel, big pea-sized gravel. But the decorations, that little log, that plastic log, and then that little waterfall thing over here are the same decorations that were in it when I set it up. What's different though now is the fact that this tank has maybe had 2 complete water changes in the nearly 10 years I've had it set up. And this just goes to show you that if you get a tank set up properly, they're pretty much maintenance free. I don't understand people that do water changes every few weeks on a tank. I just don't understand it. I mean, I do. I understand in some cases it can help with breeding, that kind of thing. I understand that. And for some species of fish, you do need to do regular water changes. But if you plant a tank, if you put other living plant items in with the fish, there's a symbiosis that occurs between the plants and the fish, between the flora and the fauna, and they tend to thrive. As you can see, this tank, I converted it from a plastic planted tank, and all I did was drain all the water down until I had about probably that much water in the bottom of the tank, because I didn't want to have to take all these fish out. There were some plecos in here. There were some neon tetras, that kind of thing. I didn't want to have to move them. It was a lot of fish. All I did was drain the water down and then covered the gravel with a 50-pound bag of pool sand. And this became then the substrate in which I was going to grow plants. Now, sand is inert, means it doesn't have any minerals or anything in there that the plant can survive on. It's an inert substance. It can grow in it, but it's not going to grow very well. But underneath that sand, mind you, is all this gravel that has collected fish poop and food and dead fish and dead snails and dead whatever that I missed and didn't take out of the tank. All that stuff is great compost. It makes for great nutrient-rich soil underneath the sand. So this was the poor man's way of creating a planted tank without having to rip it apart completely and replant it and put dirt in it and all this other crap. So this is what I did. And then I went out as money allowed and I bought some plants. And you can see I've got Amazon sword in here. I got Vallisneris is just going, the jungle val is just going wild in this tank. It is doing incredibly well. Some of the plants not quite as well as the jungle val and the Amazon sword there in the middle, but they're keeping up, and it's able to grow plants outside. There's my lucky bamboo plant, and I've got a pothos started. But keep in mind, most of the nutrients are being consumed by the plants. So the fish produce waste, they eat the food, uneaten food goes down at the bottom. I've got snails in here, I've got cherry red shrimp, I'm going to show you those here in a minute. And all that creates this diverse ecosystem, this biosphere, if you will, where the animals can live in symbiosis with the plants, and it makes your life, you spend a whole lot more time enjoying your fish than you do worrying about water changes and that kind of thing. Now you still need to keep an eye on ammonia levels, but you don't need to let it dry. Once a week you get some test strips, check your nitrates and your nitrites, and check your ammonia levels, and make your decisions based on that kind of information. But folks, again, I took that tank water down to the very bottom, filled it, put sand in, filled it back up, planted some plants. Now I've lost some fish along the way, don't get me wrong. I lost those neon tetras, but in their defense, they were probably 4 or 5 years old and had a full life. But this is a whole new generation of fish I have in here now. These are all guppies, mollies, swords. I've got some, some red cherry shrimp in here. I've got snails galore in here. I've got a pleco to help keep the glass clean. And look, I have sponge filters in the back here. As you can see, there's one. And then over in this corner is another sponge filter. Now I do have a hang on the back filter, but I only run that maybe once a week. And all I do that to stir up the mulm on the bottom of the sand. But as you can see, this fish tank is thriving. It's full of baby guppies and mature guppies and mature swords, and I've got some beautiful, beautiful fish in here. And this thing is just, when you come home from a bad day, there ain't nothing like a dog to sit in your lap and make your troubles go away, and a fish tank to stare at. So the one thing I do want to remove out here is this big piece of plastic. Plastics in water, I'm just not real comfortable with that. I'd rather put a big piece of wood in there. I've got some big pieces of wood that need a home. And frankly, this is just, it's nearly 20 years old. It served its purpose, and it doesn't look natural. It doesn't look real. And as you can see, my fish are truly living their best lives. And you can see underneath that sand is you can see I got a lot of dead stuff under there, and detritus and algae growing underneath there, and all that serves as food for these huge Vallisneris and my sword and these little things back there. And I'm even growing plants on the top of the tank, Amazon frog bit. And yeah, it's just, this tank is teeming with life. There's one of my cherry red shrimp. They do a real good job of cleaning up after the fish, and if you overfeed, and I tend to overfeed. I've got little bitty babies in there. Look at that little bitty guppy back there. It just gives you an idea of the different sizes of fish. There's another little baby, very, very, I've got him in the center of the screen now. Oh, he's disappearing. And I've found out now that these little devils right here are breeding. I've seen some babies from them. You can tell by the coloration. I might be able to find one in here. There's one right there. No, that's a guppy. Let me see if I can find one of those fish. that looks like the mollies. And then I'll zoom in on it, or I'll try to. He might be in hiding. There he is. He's right back there on the top of the filter. So one of those little fellows right back there is there he is. You can see his colors if this camera will focus. Problem is there's too much movement. But yeah, that little fellow back there is one of those speckled mollies. I don't know what their actual true name is, but you get the idea. And there's nothing better. I come in this, our kitchen is right over here. So I come into this room when I'm cooking, and I just sit here in this chair that I'm sitting in now, and I can get a view of the tank, and you can see the valve is kind of taken over. Now I've got 2 lights on this tank because the light I had on here initially was failing. Well, it turned out it wasn't the light, it was the power supply. So I put a new power supply on. But in the meantime, I bought a new lid, or I bought a new light, and 4-foot LED lights are not cheap. They're $40-50 for a decent light. And so now I use both lights. I just think it lights. There's my Pleco back there, and he's gotten to be a big chunky monkey of a fellow. Trust me, this tank gets very well fed. I've got some almond leaves down here for the shrimp. They love to munch on those. I've got some wood in here for the plecos, and even the other fish love to munch on that. You can see I got some fish. I got fish hiding everywhere here. And that's the beauty of a planted tank, is you never know what you're going to see around the next corner. And just a huge amount of life in this tank. And again, all I do is once a week I top off the water. I just add to the water. I don't like to use covers on my tanks. I don't have any fish that I'm fearful of them jumping out of the tank. Occasionally I'll have a snail climb out of the tank, but it's easy. Snails are tough. You just put them back into the tank and they'll be fine. But so I don't run covers, so I get a lot of evaporation. But in the winter in South Texas, I like having that moisture in the air in the winter. Keeps your skin in the house from drying out. So I just leave my tank lids off. It just makes it easier to manage the tanks. And then once a week on the weekend, if it needs it, I refill the tank. I top off the water and treat the water for chlorine and whatnot. But I haven't lost a fish in this tank that I'm aware of. Oh, it's been months. It's been months. I'm sure I've had some die. I'm sure I've had some of these little babies, I'm sure, have been eaten and gobbled up by other fish. But it's a circle of life. I don't take my guppies. Oh, look at that beautiful male guppy right there. Look at that. Look at the color on that. Those 2 male guppies right there. Aren't they beautiful? I don't take the babies out of the tank. I leave them in the tank and they fend for themselves. And because I'm not a fish breeder, I'm not in it to breed. I'm in it for the joy of seeing the animals thrive and procreate. I've even got some hair algae in there. So, but you can see the tank. The water is crystal clear. It pretty much takes care of itself. I do keep my temperatures up there. I like them tropical temperatures. I think the fish like the warmer temperatures. It helps prevent ick, that kind of thing. So, and you can just see these fish are thoroughly enjoying their life. So yeah, this is I'm kind of proud of this tank. It's been I didn't spend a lot of money on it to get it to where it is. These plants, figure each plant is probably 10. There's that little fish right there. There's the baby right there. Oh, thank you. Perfect timing. I'm going to name you George. But you can see he looks just like the color of that fish down there. So yeah, welcome to the tank, buddy. Figure each plant in this tank is about $10. So, that jungle valve, some of these jungle valves I've split up. Like this plant right here, this sword was $10, but you can see it's just, look at this. It's reaching up to the top of the tank. And occasionally I'll throw a little fertilizer in here. I just use the API, the leaf zone, whatever they call that. I just pour some of that in here every couple of weeks to supplement, to make sure they're getting enough. The plants have enough food. But other than that, it's pretty much maintenance free. Any moron if I can do an aquarium. And the thing is, don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it. And do it a little at a time. And it's very relaxing. It's very stress relieving to sit here and just kind of view. And when stuff gets on the bottom and starts to pile up like this mulm down here, that's what you want. That's what happens in lakes and rivers and even in streams. This stuff builds up and then it percolates down into the sand, goes down into the sand, and becomes soil. It becomes nutrient-rich matter for the plants to feed on. So, again, just don't overthink it, and have fun with it. Here's the frog bit on the top of the tank. Now, let me warn you, this stuff will take over, and I believe in Texas it's classified as an invasive species. So I may have purchased some on the internet, not knowing that I wasn't allowed to have it in the state. So I don't think that's the case. Somebody told me that, but I still have to verify it. But yeah, there you go. My hang-on back filter, which is not really being used for anything right now. And then just this beautiful tank. And yeah, I do love keeping fish. And for those of you that enjoy it, nothing better than just watching your fish swim around and kind of enjoy their life. And guppies breed a lot, but they do have pretty babies, and usually your local fish store will take guppies. If you have a whole bunch of fish. Another fish I don't get to see that often is that one right there, and I'm horrible with. And she likes to hide, or he likes to hide. It's like a candy cane molly, I think is what they call that. I forget, but it's quite a striking fish. And that one right there, that black and white speckled molly, and you can see it must be a male because he just keeps going after all these. That'll make an interesting couple of fish to see if those two breed. That's for sure. Yeah, I just pick out fish that I like, that are pretty to me, and I know they get along. Live bears are so much fun because they give live birth, right? They don't lay eggs. They're easy to breed. They breed on their own. So there you go. Thanks for hanging by. Thanks for hanging around and enjoying this tank with me. And I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video I do. So there you go. Ta for now.